Uh, Hi, today's professional development really is going to be centered around student centered coaching and how this coaching can empower teachers and students in literacy. This really is focused around the OH Summers Elementary School and the Mogadore Local School District, working with the instructional coach and teachers within that district. This has been designed with the experiences and them in mind of how we can support their instructional growth and literacy achievement over time. So first, we're going to go over what student-centered coaching is. Student-centered coaching is something that focuses on student learning outcomes rather than fixing teachers. So really looking at where we want students to be by the end and how we're going to get them there. We're not going to be super nitpicky or evaluative of teachers. This is really to determine, how we're improving those student outcomes. Student-centered coaching emphasizes collaboration between the coach and the teacher. So working in partnership between both the coach and the teacher to come up with goals that they both are going to work towards. The coach should be heavily invested in what the teacher is doing in instruction and how the coach can be of high level support during co-teaching or modeling opportunities as well. Student-centered coaching uses data and evidence of student learning to guide decision making. So data should really be the forefront of all of the coaching between, coach and teacher. Really looking at pre-assessment data, ongoing exit tickets, formal assessments. To target how students are doing and where they are in relation to those end goals. And then student-centered coaching should be centered on goal setting aligned to standards and literacy skills. So, looking and, just at where students are at, where we want students to be at the end, and then what type of measurable goal can be drafted between the coach and the teacher so that we have something to track over time. Student-centered coaching is not evaluative or supervisory. The coach isn't coming in to look at teacher skill set. The coach is coming in to look at, where the students are at in their learning journey and how the teacher can support that journey. Each child is going to be on an individual path. And so it's going to be important that the teacher has those tools or makes modifications in instruction to support that individual path to reach their goals. It's not about teacher deficits. So it's not looking at, where a teacher is at in their level of instruction. It's about equipping them with skills and tools to make sure that they're on the path to students reaching their goals. Student-centered coaching is not a one-size-fits-all professional development. So, along with students, all teachers are on a different journey towards supporting their students. And so it's important that, there are tiers to professional development. And so, someone first starting out is not going to receive the same professional development as a veteran or someone that's been doing it for a long time. It's also important that, all teachers are participating in some type of professional development because, teaching is a continuous learning journey to figure out what they can do to support their students best. Student-centered coaching is collaborative inquiry grounded in student evidence. So, we're not making decisions based off of opinions. It's really collaborating with other colleagues within teacher-based teams or looking at the evidence over time to determine, where students are at and where or what we can do as a staff to get them there. Some key components of student-centered coaching are coaching cycles that are driven by student learning goals. Designing the cycle to look at, where students want to be by the end. How we're tracking if they're meeting their goals, how we're, progress monitoring that they're aligned to their goals. The second is collaborative co-planning, co-teaching, and co-reflecting. So, working with the coach and teacher to determine what first co-planning opportunities they can do together to leave time and space for that co-teaching, and then reflection time to unpack, how did it go? Where, what do we need to do to make adjustments for next time? What is the next co-teaching opportunity? What lesson are we going to unpack to make sure that we have opportunity to do so? The third is data-driven decision-making and formative assessment analysis. Always making decisions based off of data and analyzing that data often because it's going to change. I think it's important that, a lot of the student-centered coaching is, with data in mind. And so it makes it less evaluative of where the teacher is at and more of, okay, we're doing this because the data is showing us X. And then the fourth is building collective teacher efficacy. And so I think it's important that, teachers bring their personal style and their personality to the classroom, but also, sharing the wealth amongst teachers because everybody is trying to do the same thing and have similar results. We all want what's best for kids. And so, how are we getting, teams there and how are we working together as a group? A lot of these mindsets are based off of research as well. So from Sweeney and Harris. And so when I'm discussing or referencing a lot of what coaching is and what coaching is not, my background and knowledge is really just around current and up-to-date research within the last 5 years of what effective coaching can look like and sound like. So the coach's role in literacy improvement over time is to first partner with teachers to plan and implement effective literacy practices. So I think, we can't do anything effectively without a clear plan. And so, needing that dedicated time to collaborate with teachers, work in teacher-based teams, and then most importantly, are we up to speed with some effective literacy practices that can change the way that we are delivering literacy instruction? So one of the big practices is, and this is something Mogadore is using as well, is shifting to the science of reading and how the brain develops and works and how students actually process letters and sounds. How are they fluently reading and how is comprehension and writing tied into that? So all things to keep in mind. The second is supporting differentiation and intervention for struggling readers and writers. So I think in the Mogadore School District, there are a good chunk of students that are, determined struggling readers or are on RIMPs. And so what does differentiation and intervention look like for those students? How are we providing opportunities for students to be grouped, not by level, but by ability level? And then are the groups fluid to be able to interchange those? The third activity is facilitating reflection and instructional impact on using the student data. So there needs to be time and space for teachers to reflect on how lessons are going, what impact they're having on the data, and what needs to be further adjusted. And then the fourth is modeling and co-teaching lessons focused on literacy goals. So this is something that the current coach has not had time to do, but wants to be doing more so in the coming weeks, because it is so important that teachers feel that in-person support as well. So, the pre-planning and the actual live co-teaching need to go hand in hand. So these four components are really supported by Sweeney and Harris of how, coaches can effectively improve literacy over time and get to faster results. So now we're going to talk about supporting struggling readers and writers, because reading and writing do go hand in hand. And I think there is a big connection between those two. So the first is identifying specific literacy gaps through formative assessment. So I think in Mogadore, they're using a lot of DIBELS data, some just informal assessments to determine where students are at alongside iReady data. That is giving a lot of insight from the beginning of the school year where students were at in their literacy journey. The second is implementing evidence-based interventions. So, looking at the guided reading, phonics, and fluency support. If, we're shifting towards the science and reading in Mogadore, it is looking towards what does guided reading look like and how are we supporting each student in their phonics and phonemic awareness? What skills are they lacking in that can be retaught and reintroduced? And then as a result, how is their fluency being improved upon over time? The third is monitoring progress and adjusting instruction collaboratively. So, progress monitoring is a huge part of how we support struggling readers and writers. It should be a lot of in the moment. And then, self-correction or correction in the moment for a student to go back and reread or reintroduce something, reteach a skill, so that progress can be looked at more seriously and more importantly, where the skill is lacking. The fourth is fostering student agency by teaching strategies for comprehension and writing. I think it's important that, for the coaching cycle we just worked in third grade, we were working on a skill, main idea and details, and how those details supported the main idea. So that is, a key skill that allows students to really dissect and comprehend a passage and then look in a more targeted way as to, how they're understanding that. There should also be time and space for writing reflection where students are writing about their reading. So, ways that we can implement effective literacy interventions. This is also backed by research from the Science of Reading, Sweeney and Harris, and various recent research. So, using coaching cycles to align interventions with instruction, setting measurable goals for reading and writing growth, reflecting on strategies that accelerate progress. And so, looking at what are the shifts that we're seeing in the science of reading that look and feel different than what we used to traditionally do. I mean, when I first started teaching, I was leveling my groups. I was giving a lot of students a one-size-fits-all instructional model, and I wasn't seeing a lot of progress. And there is a key difference to what the science of reading suggests and what we were doing previously that was not working, and how the science of reading has made, vast modifications based off of brain research and just how the brain learns. And then the fourth is integrating interventions into daily literacy blocks. So intervention should be a daily part of the literacy block. Students should be reintroduced skills and retaught skills on a consistent basis. That actually is research-based to show that continuous review and mastery over time, makes, the connections in their brain connect to all parts of the brain. And so that to me would be the four core ones when looking at literacy intervention that we should be implementing. Supporting teachers through coaching. So as the coach, it is so important to first have a strong rapport with your staff and your teachers. The first one would be building trust. So learning about that teacher's experiences, their personal life, what they like, what they don't like, how they receive coaching best. Those are all ways that a coach can really support teachers over time and feel that they're, trusting their coach in their decision making. The second would be providing non-evaluative feedback grounded in student outcomes. So really just taking the teacher skill set out of the equation, looking at the student work, the student results, and where we want students to be, rooted in that data. So data-driven conversations of what we're going to do to ensure that students are making progress to their goals. Coaches should be modeling, co-teaching, and reflecting with the teacher. So, if there's a specific skill that teacher would like to see live, that coach is already pre-prepared to offer that type of assistance, find time and space to plan out an upcoming lesson and co-teach with that teacher, plan specific access points for both the teacher and the coach within the lesson, and then time to, reflect on how did it go, what needs adjusted. And then the fourth is creating space for teacher voice and ownership of their learning. So, a lot of teachers want to build their skill set in literacy now that Mogadore is shifting to the science of reading. What professional development would feel most valuable to that teacher? What do they want to get better at or improve upon? And making sure that they have voice within the coaching process. So it feels very collaborative and supportive of their professional journey. Some ways that we can support students through coaching. First, ensuring that instruction meets learners' needs through differentiation. So, like I'd mentioned, intervention block should be something that is occurring daily in literacy instruction. Students should be in fluid groups to work on differentiated skills, not leveled one size fits all. And the next way is promoting. So promoting literacy, engagement, and motivation. How are we encouraging students that may struggle with reading to enjoy it and pique their interest? What are some research-based methods like whole brain teaching that really engage students in the learning process, have them learn through movement to increase their literacy engagement. The third activity is strengthening comprehension and writing strategies. So what are some research-based writing methods, like I had mentioned, tied to whole brain writing and reading that can get students thinking about sentence structure and formation, or the rules of vowel teams, how students can learn best through songs and rhymes and chants. Those are things that can strengthen their progress in writing and comprehension. And then the fourth one is close. So closing the achievement gaps with targeted instructional support, that's our overall goal, is that we want to make those gaps smaller, to make sure that students are making 1.5 years of growth. As we know, they lose a lot over the summer, and they lose a lot without continuous spiral review. The ways that the administration can support this process and just improvement with literacy is align the coaching goals with school improvement plans. So I know that the Summers Elementary School really wants students to be at 90 to 95% to goal in their literacy journey through iReady. And so, looking at where administration wants students to be at in literacy in all components can make it easier to track that progress and how they are aligned to those goals. The second is sharing evidence with literacy growth across classrooms. So I think it's important that as the administration, there is clear communication between both admin and staff as to where they're at and where they need to be, where they're at after each iReady assessment, what grade level teams' performance looks like, and really root that conversation in data. The third is collaborating on professional development sessions focused on literacy best practices. So I think as the district is developing more aligned to the science of reading, they're looking to get whole brain teaching training to a lot of the staff to increase literacy engagement and root themselves in brain-based practices. But I think there is a lot of opportunity for other professional development for newer teachers, just from what the instructional and coach has shared, that there are a lot of new staff introduced into the school district that haven't been exposed to research-based literacy practices. And looking at some of our programs at the lower level as well, like Foundations and Hegarty, that really do a nice job of supporting their program in research and looking at just data over time that has improved with those programs. The fourth is building coherence and sustainability across the grade levels. So admin should be providing opportunities for teacher-based teams to collaborate with one another, converse, discuss, create goals that are aligned to where they want their grade team as a whole to be at by the midpoint in the year and the end of the year, and just really celebrating a lot of those wins along the school year. How coaching supports literacy goals. So first, it strengthens teacher capacity in evidence-based literacy instruction. So, we want teachers to feel more equipped to make those shifts to evidence-based instruction that is supported by research. And so, providing them professional development, supporting them, in coaching cycles with some of that newer content can really change the game for a teacher. The second is ensuring that interventions are consistent across the network. What does intervention look like in kindergarten versus first grade versus second grade? This is especially important for a family that has multiple siblings within the district. What does intervention look like? How long are teachers spending on intervention? When does the dedicated time appear in the school day? The third is using data to monitor and celebrate progress. So it's so important that we're pausing to really celebrate where we were at the beginning of the school year and where we're at after a coaching cycle. So looking at, every 4 to 6 weeks, monitoring some of that data, using the Nexus, big formal assessment as a way to quick check to say, okay, hey, we're making strides and gains towards having almost 90% of students to mastery on their main idea and details. I think with this recent coaching cycle, we had seen improvement within 4 to 5 weeks of at least 60% to goal, which is awesome within 6 weeks. And so I think no doubt there is room for growth there. And then the fourth is promoting equity and literacy achievement across all students. So just making sure that, we're spreading access and giving students the time and space to be exposed, to high quality literacy instruction and celebrating, a lot of the achievement happening. Some collaboration and action that would be good examples. This is also backed by research, supported just by Sweeney and Harris. So the first one they mentioned is co-teaching a guided reading lesson on main idea and details. That's an example that we were using, within this current coaching cycle at the school to see how effective it would be. I know the instructional coach mentions she wants to be in the classroom more. To observe and provide opportunity to co-teach. Using exit ticket data to refine small group instruction. So, coaching cycles should be driven by data. Anytime we're inventing or, re-looking at groupings, we have to be looking at the end in mind. Looking at that data to always adjust those fluid groups. And then the third is reflecting on student progress through coaching conversations. So, it shouldn't be all, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's going to be like, how did that go? And what are we seeing? What are trends that we're seeing in students? What needs adjusted? What is working well? What's not? That is super crucial to just provide a pause point, both between the coach and the teacher, so everybody's on the same page and that we have a clear path forward. Sustaining growth through coaching. So these are some things that have worked well in various schools based off of recent research. So the first is embedding coaching cycles into weekly routines. So coaching cycles shouldn't just be like something that we're doing sporadically. It should be an ongoing cycle between the coach and the teacher. And there should be a time frame for, how long we're in a coaching cycle. The second is using data walls to track progress. So what kind of progress are we tracking? Is it on a bulletin board? Is it a graph? Is it a digital tracker? Something to show where we're at and where we're headed and how we're getting there. The third is celebrating teacher and student successes. So I think, all the time teachers are trying to highlight and celebrate student achievement, but it is so important that teachers feel that celebration as well. They're able to share and cross share out. They're able to be shouted out for the hard work that they're putting in to make sure that students are making necessary growth. And then the fourth is continuing professional growth through reflection. So, working hard on a lot of our goals also needs pause points just to stop and think about how it's going and where we are in our professional journey. To wrap up here, some key takeaways that I just want to mention is that coaching really is about students, and we're rooting a lot of those decisions on where students are at in their journeys. It's less about the teacher and where the teacher is at in their skill set. It's more what are we doing as adults to equip our instruction to support the student data. That segues into, data and collaboration drive growth. So, what kind of data are we using to drive those decisions? What does the growth look like, and how often are we tracking it? The third is, literacy improvement is a shared responsibility. It's not just all on the teacher. It's, the collaboration between administration and the teacher, the coach and the teacher, involving families in their progress of their child. That, as a whole, improves literacy over time. And then the fourth is sustainable change happens through relationships and reflection. So all of this progress really should be rooted in relationships. So what does the relationship between the coach and the teacher look like? What do relationships between, teachers and students look like? We always need to remember that, students don't learn from, a teacher they don't like. The same is true about teachers. Teachers really don't learn from a coach they don't like. And so there needs to be a human element to this to really understand where people are coming from, listen, and, come up with best solutions. I just wanted to highlight some of the references that are research-based that contributed to a lot of this professional development. A lot of it is rooted in the science of reading and the theory of coaching. And so I hope, you enjoyed my professional development. This is something that, I worked very hard on in response to where the Mogadore School District was in their journey. And, I hope that this is something that they can use in the future. Just to recap how we can revisit some of their literacy practices tied to recent research. Thanks.